Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 24 into 7 Nyaya webinar series. And today we have the topic of corporate social responsibility and business responsibility. Till now, we were talking about the social development issues, and today we are talking about the corporates and their responsibilities towards the society. And we have very eminent speakers today. I would request Rakesh Gupta sir to please introduce our speakers first.
Well, good morning to you all. This is a very onerous job that has been given to me to introduce all the eminent speakers, starting with Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, who is widely acclaimed as the father of corporate social responsibility in India, has been instrumental in framing and issuing the so-called CSR guidelines for public sector enterprises in April 2010. So we can see at what stage the concept of CSR really percolated. Dr. Chatterjee has played a major role in the inclusion of Section 135 in the Companies Act of 2013, which was a modified version or amended version in framing of the rules thereafter. As a Director General and CEO of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, he spearheaded the National Foundation for Corporate Social Responsibility, NFCSR. Now, Dr. Chatterjee, who is widely acclaimed as a management practitioner, theorist, teacher, has been writing on issues of social and sustainable development, corporate responsibility, and human resource. Though being an IAS officer himself, where he joined in 75, he has held many distinguished positions. In 2008 and 9, he was a principal advisor in the Planning Commission, and subsequently he was part of the team responsible for shaping India's response to the global economic crisis of 2009. Now, this is a small understanding of what I know of Dr. Chatterjee, and I had the privilege of meeting him very often in his office and outside his office. Coming to Mr. Kamal Singh, who is Executive Director in United Nations Global Compact Network India. He is member of board subcommittees of several organizations, institutions, including United Nations Principle for Responsible Management Education, Bureau of Indian Standards, Association of Indian Management Schools, the Indian Society for Training and Development, and the list goes on, like Jagannath. He is associated with Jagannath Institute of Management Studies, Institute of Finance and International Management, Institute of Integrated Learning in Management. Then he is also associated with the Birla Institute of Management Technology, the Delhi and Resource Institute, Delhi Management Association, Manav Rachana International University, and Ramakrishna Dharmarth Foundation University in Bhopal. Subsequently, he is also a member of Jaipuria Institute of Management in Jaipur, Jindal Global University, Sonipat, independent, and he is an independent director on the board of Parsvanath Infratech Limited, etc. And with these sort of backgrounds, I'm really, I feel that I'm honored by giving introduction to such luminaries. Mr. Hitendra Mehta, who is a managing partner of Centrum Legal, a corporate legal advisory firm, is an eminent legal professional with over 24 years of versatile professional experience. He is an eminent author and addressed various international and national forums. For example, the World Free Zone Convention, the World Law Group Tokyo Business Summit, Osaka Chamber of Commerce, Japan Research Institute, Singapore Business Federation. He is associated with Institute of Company Secretaries, Institute of Chartered Accountants, FICCI, PhD, and PhD Chamber of Commerce, and so on. Now, while introducing all these liminaries, I have certain observations about the CSR laws, which have been there after, especially the emphasis was there after the amendment of Companies Law in 2013, Section 135 and Schedule 7 of the Companies Act. And subsequently, the company's corporate social responsibility policy rules were established in 2014, which came into effect from 1st April 2014. Now, theoretically, the term CSR has been defined under the CSR rules, which includes, but they are not limited only to projects or programs related to activities specified in the schedule, or projects or programs relating to activities undertaken by the board in pursuance of recommendations of the CSR committee as per declared CSR policy, subject to the condition that such policy covers subjects enumerated in the schedule. But this simple definition, though it assumes a significance as it follows companies to engage in projects or programs relating to activities enlisted under the schedule, flexibility is also permitted to the companies by allowing them to choose their preferred CSR engagements and that are in conformity with the CSR policy. Now, there has been recent studies which I am going to quote by Center for Social Impact and Philanthropy, that after the implementation of these rules in 2015 and 16, the CSR giving in India is heavily skewed. It all depends on the way we look at it, because more than 50% have not been reported. The companies, they have not reported. I'm not going into the nitty-gritties of the subject, which companies can provide for CSR or not. But more than 50% have not reported their net profits or CSR spends. And those who did, there are noteworthy disparities in giving. For example, a CSR spending of 19,184 companies in 2015-16 was just equal to quarterly net profit of Reliance and ONGC put together. While companies have now had quite some time to address initial teething problems with their CSR, but still they have yet to formulate better strategies to implement these activities. Nearly 44% of CSR projects are located in just 4 states that hold just 1/4 of India's population, namely Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Gujarat. While densely populated states like Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, they just get a fraction of this. And while calculating whether companies adhere to mandatory minimum 2% CSR spends rule or not, it has been observed that out of 10,674 companies, 56%, that is out of 19,184, they had not provided either their net profits or CSR spends. From the companies that did, 40% have complied with the rules, whereas spending of 2% or more of their average net profit. So the figures which are there in this particular report is that in 2014-15, only 9,231 crores was spent. 2015-16, 13,966 crores was spent, whereas in 2016-17, only 4,440 crores was spent. Now, there are a lot of confusions about these CSR projects because 43% companies, they implemented themselves. 37% companies, they did it through agencies. And out of the total CSR spend of 13,966, 30% companies were government companies and 70% were private sector companies. Now, where to spend the money? As we'll be going to the BR concept also, business responsibility concept also. The sectors which were funded were education got 28.2%, healthcare got 17.6%, rural development projects got 9.58%, and poverty and eradication hunger got 8.20%. And surprisingly, women empowerment got just 0.9%. Now, companies should, though it is mandated, should fill in all the compliances or complete all the compliances, but while filing the revenue figures along with the CSR spends, the reporting has to be uniform, which companies are not complying with. This gives us, this leads us to area of business responsibility. Now, organizations have a duty to care for employees, and that very much includes a mentally healthy workplace. Not only that, it's a moral, ethical, and legal requirement. All workplaces have a duty of care and responsibility towards not only their employees, whosoever they are, but also towards their customers. To provide a clean, safe working environment, build employees' self-worth, empowerment programs, and so on and so forth. So we come to the majorly four social responsibilities of the business, which are economic, legal, ethical, and philanthropic. Sometime back, I had attended a UN Global Compact seminar on the same, where 10 areas of human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption, they were provided. They were elucidated by good speakers over there, which our speaker would also put, definitely he'll talk about it. And there are 7 sustainable development goals, which were adopted in September 2015 by all the member states of United Nations, including India. And the objects, broadly the objects were to end the extreme poverty, to fight inequality and injustice, to protect our planet, and regardless of its size and complexity or location, the business has to see all these things. And we are lucky that we have a good speaker from Global Compact Network India, Mr. Mukesh Singh, who is going to address us. So I'll go back to Babita to start the so-called engagements.
Thank you so much, sir, for setting the context. And that's true that the CSR is the most discussed topic since 2014 that it has came into force. Of course, with the efforts of Chatterjee, sir. And also I know their background has been very strong, and because of Chatterjee, sir, India has become the first country to get this kind of legislation. And yes, there were unspent amount, and yes, there were updates that has not yet notified yet that these unspent amount has to be spent in next 3 years or so. So I would like to go to Chatterjee, sir, to know from him that how this whole concept has came into force, and how we can look forward towards it. Chatterjee, sir, please.
Thank you, Babita. Very nice introduction by Mr. Gupta. Thank you for setting the context of what we are about to discuss today. Yes, the CSR law, the primary purpose of the law, and this is something we need to remember today like any time before, the attempt was to try and bring the corporate world into the development process of this country. There used to be a feeling that development belongs to government, that removal of poverty belongs to government, that all of these aspects, it is for the government to do. We made a significant change in that by allowing corporates now to participate in the development agenda of the nation. And I would say not just development agenda, the inclusive development agenda of the nation. The idea here was that now corporates above a certain threshold limit would be able to spend funds which they would earmark as CSR funds under the new CSR law. And primarily also that this legislation would facilitate decision making at the highest level, which is the board level of the company. Thus, the finest minds and the highest levels would be engaged in the operation of CSR in the companies that came under the ambit of the law. This brought about a sea change in the whole perception towards CSR, which now became far more strategic, far more focused, far more result oriented than ever before. Corporates who were initially reluctant and expressed their reluctance in no uncertain terms about the legislation, then switched over to taking the challenge as an opportunity. And it is wonderful to see how engaged some of the best corporates are in their CSR work. It is true that geographically there have been certain concentrations, and primarily the reason lies in the fact that most of the corporate headquarters of India are located in the 4 or 6 states that were mentioned. But then again, the idea was to let the ball get rolling, let corporates roll up their sleeves and get into the CSR activities. Subsequently, if you want to tweak the law somewhat to allow a better geographic distribution, that can still be considered. As to some of the companies not having really spent as much as they should have, post the scenario which Mr. Gupta drew for us, in 1718, the first set of notices from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs went out to as many as 825 companies, asking them to comply. And the idea there was that from the 1st of April 2014 till around, say, 1st of April 2018, about 4 years' time, corporates were given to get their act together, to understand the legislation, and to set in motion their CSR processes. Thereafter, the MCA began to crack the whip. At last count, and I think Mr. Mehta will be able to enlighten us even further, more than 3,000 notices have been issued. And in 1819, we saw a dramatic rise in spending and also in the number of companies that actually began to comply with the law. So that broadly is in terms of where we stand. In terms of the new ideas that are coming up, and these are important, let's take a pause here and see. The legislation was actually passed in the lower house of parliament in December of 2013. Now we're approaching December of 2021. So let's say about 8 years, not one letter of the law has changed. All that's happened is that we have added a few, very few items to Schedule 7. So one might say that the law has stood the test of time. Repeatedly in times of national crisis, the government has resorted to the CSR law to leverage the involvement of companies in the national crisis. And therefore, we saw in the pandemic that has hit us very recently that government opened up the PM CARES Fund, that it also brought under Schedule 7 all activities related to COVID-19 expenditure. And therefore, that law has been used repeatedly in times when the country needed it. What are the new ideas that the high-level committee threw up and which the Corporate Affairs Ministry put up on its website for comments? I'll draw your attention to 2 or 3 of them only before I close my introduction remarks. And of course, Mr. Mehta can take over from there. One was the long mending problem to which Babita drew our attention as to unspent balances. And now the Corporate Affairs Ministry is keen that these monies should not lapse. They can be put in an escrow fund, a special fund for CSR unspent balances, and these could then be spent over the next 3 years. This is an important step, and if it comes into being, will be greatly helpful. The second idea that has been mooted in the items that are calling for public comment, and this one I don't agree with, is that NGOs and societies should not be implementing agencies. I think that comes from a basic distrust of civil society organizations, and I personally don't like it at all. The idea that government is floating is we should allow only Section 8 companies who come under the company law should be permitted to do CSR. That has not become legislation yet, and the tremendous amount of opposition has already been intimated to the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Another important one, and this is important for Kamal Singh Saab since he's involved with a UN agency, is that the UN, United Nations organizations who operate in India will now be allowed to become implementing agencies of CSR. So companies can use even UN agencies. So these are some of the new ideas that have been floated. Of course, there are many others, but if I start, then I will never end. So I'll stop here for now and then invite other speakers to set the ball rolling.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for guiding us and taking us from how the CSR law has actually helped India during the pandemic, which is the biggest threat right now. And I think it is still helping us so much. Also to mention about the new updates which are coming up at the high level committee. Thank you so much, sir. Kamal Singh, sir, I would like to know from you what is the international scenario in this case, like how the international organizations are dealing with it, how much they are interested in responsible business or doing CSR, and what is their take during this pandemic?
Yeah. So thank you, Babita, for first of all inviting me, and also it is truly a pleasure and privilege to be in the galaxy of such enlightening personality like Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee and many others. So thank you for having me. As I come from United Nations Global Compact Network India, it will be important for me to share with you what Global Compact is all about. In 2015, all of you know that all over the world, at that point of time, 193 countries agreed to make this planet not only joyful, happier, but also sustainable. And along with Paris Climate Accord, that was main highlight of that the agreement was. But one specific highlight was that introduction of Sustainable Development Goals that country to need to adapt and also implement in their respective geography wherever they are. And these 17 SDG became a roadmap for making the planet not only happier but also sustainable. So 17 SDG, if you look at, has lot common in to do with the CSR law that Dr. Chatterjee mentioned, and also they all, by and large, all SDGs are part and parcel of that. So I would like to say at that point of time that country, when they felt that how do we really implement it. So for India, it was felt and Niti Aayog was mandated to implement the SDG with the all stakeholder, especially the state government and also other allied stakeholders. And for us at UN level, it was felt that the UN Global Compact is very well positioned to accelerate the achievement of these targets with the corporate sector. Particularly with the private sector, we have huge number, and with that, the mandate was with us. And also I want to share with you, we are uniquely positioned from the point of view of that we had anyway the corporate sector engagement much before the SDG came. And therefore, we started having our dialogue with all the stakeholders, right from first within our own UN agencies, and also with the corporate sector, civil society organization, and academia. And today, all of you know that while Niti Aayog reviews the SDG progress with the state government by having a matrix on which state reports how they have done it so well on XD or number 1, number 3 up to 70, how they have done it. So you get a report card. And similarly, there is a now the conversation going on that how we can also do similar reporting for the corporate sector organizations, as you have for CSR law, and as Dr. Chatterjee mentioned very clearly that SDG, whatever they are quite interlinked with the CSR spend, and therefore it is good for companies now to reflect upon their spend on how they are doing it for CSR and also then subsequently with the sustainable development goals. So I'm delighted to share with you today 262 companies have appointed Chief Sustainability Officer full-time, and while many companies have both CSR and also the SDG or other matters together. So for us, the corporate sustainability is the hallmark. How do you make your business responsible and sustainable? So UN Global Compact provides a universal language for corporate responsibility and provides a framework to guide all business regardless of size, complexities or location. And UNGC guides every step of the way. And we have now global network in every country, and they do similarly like we do in India. And the UNGC helps you to commit to assess, define, measure and communicate your sustainability strategy in order to achieve corporate sustainability. So UN Global Compact, if you look at as you have heard that our basic philosophy to work is on human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption. And today, 11,000 companies all over the world are part of this initiative. And there are 3,000 non-business members, which are largely civil society organizations and also academic institutions. And every country around the world has an office. In 160 countries, we have our own offices as a global compact, and 60 local networks are very active in pursuing the agenda of the global compact, the 17 SDG we are referring to you, and we have nearly 80 million employees working on this mandate, and India stands to be one of the top 10 network for its target that it has set for yourself. Sustainable Development Goals, UN General Assembly Open Working Group forwarded proposal for SDG. As I mentioned to you, there are 169 targets covering a broad range of sustainable development issues that needed to be addressed. And also I want to tell you from 2016, January 1, the 17 SDG became the agenda not only for government, but also the agenda for every institutional framework that we are now talking. They are referred as global goals, a global goals target of 2030. And these new goals are unique in that way, call for action by all countries, poor, rich, middle income, to promote prosperity while protecting the planet. And as a whole, if you look at it, is all about people, planet, partnership, justice, prosperity, dignity. If I look at it, and that is the inspiration we have drawn for developing these sustainable development goals. And it is a principle-based approach. If you look at globally, when you refer to international experiences, all companies today, which are now numbering over 11,000, are delivering sustainable development goals on these parameters. Then after 4 years, when we look back, we realize that we are not on track to deliver on sustainable development goals. And every country has their own challenges. The developed economies have their own challenges. They feel that they have anyway developed and they don't have that kind of a responsibility. The developing economy like India has much larger challenges because they have to grow, they have to develop, at the same time they have to ensure that these goals are aligned with their development. Moving forward, if I want to say what our own Secretary General, Mr. His Excellency Antonio Guterres said, moving forward, collaboration with business and the key CEO in the world is crucial when it comes to fighting climate change, but also to meet sustainable development goals. Eradicate all extreme poverty by 2030 and we, as it is, we are not on track on this. So, for instance, I want to tell you an example of gender equality. We will take more than 100 years to get gender equality. If you see the current speed to be gender neutral economy or a country for that matter. 8 million tons of plastic enter the oceans. Child labor, if you look at 150 million child labor all over the world. Reduce global warming by 1.5 temperature I'm referring to, and 1 million species face the extinctions. I'm talking about life on land. And if you look at COVID-19 scenario, particularly around the world, it is an economic crisis, it is a social crisis, and a human crisis that is fast becoming a human right crisis as well. And how do you really then look at this as a challenge globally? Because for us, it is a boon that we have a CSR law, and companies have 2% of the profit they have to spend. And most of the company, if you look at in the last few months, have spent their money for COVID-19. And also there are companies in India which are not looking at only 2%. Company like Tata, Mahindra, they spend more than 2%, and they see it is their corporate citizenship. It is their belief that the business has to look after the communities that they serve around them, and that is where they do well. And one study that I would like to tell you, that 60% of women employment in the informal economy, with few protecting it against a dismissal and limited access to social protection. Even before COVID-19, by the way, women age 25 to 35 were 25% more likely than men to live in extreme poverty. The impact of COVID-19 on women has gone far more devastating, I would say. The 14% of working hours globally expected to wipe out in the second quarter of 2020, equivalent to 400 million full-time jobs. This is our ILO monitor. And 93% of the world workers continue to reside in countries with some sort of workplace closure measures in place. This is again ILO's our survey. And 4%, 9% decrease in global GDP for 2020 projected. This is our IMF World Economic Forecast. So therefore, the social investment have to be performing better in the downturn. An analysis by the Morningstar showed that all 26 ESG index funds yield higher returns than their own ESG benchmark in the first half of 2020. Global supply chain has become very critical for everything as part of the business. For water, sanitation, hygiene products have become more disrupted, making it more difficult to get relevant supplies to places that are most in need. So what we need to do? We need to have an ambition and scale. And if you look at, we did a random survey with all CEOs, we found that 84% of CEOs around the world are taking action on SDG. And this number is also encouraging in India. And these CEOs are more or less, if I have to say how companies around the world have aligned SDG with their businesses goals, it is 39%. Goals aligned to societal and environmental needs. 46% people have aligned their strategy with this business strategy I'm referring to. And 37 people have aligned their business model. The all like a company like in India, I want to refer Tata or Mahindra or even Unilever. Their business today, if you go into their financial, you'll find every business strategy is with the sustainable development goals. So it's a proven approach. You have to trust with the stakeholders, transparency, achieve your sustainability objective, help space the corporate sustainability agenda. And therefore, the CSR alignment I'm talking for India with SDG is very, very critical and also very useful, because whatever Dr. Chatterjee mentioned, the recent amendments to the CSR law have amplified adherence to these obligations in terms of mandatory 2% spent in a financial year. Hence, the companies doing well and doing good simultaneously is of paramount importance here. To do so, they must align themselves with the global development priorities and ensure that they fuel and catalyze the global efforts towards achieving SDG, Sustainable Development Goals, within this stipulated time. So before I conclude, I also want to reflect upon the 4 pillars on the positive impact and importance of maintaining CSR in the times of crisis, because it is very important for us to know, because it helps you to build a brand. Because if I look at today, the company which are operating from offices abroad, but they have a subsidiaries in India, they are equally concerned about their spend in India. So CSR and brand continue to play an important role, especially during these uncomfortable times, and the importance of honesty, dedication, community outreach helps companies keep their brand and reputation authentic during the time. Community relations, company who support COVID-19 pandemic during the time go above and beyond to work with charities and NPOs to foster relationship built from genuine care. Robust disasters relief plan. You have seen we are working on the disaster plan strategy introduced by the government of India. And since this is such an unprecedented time, never seen earlier before, it is expected that many corporations have had to quickly shift priorities, reevaluate current programs and projects, and of course, review their disaster relief processes. And CSR and government provision, most of the companies, if you look at in Indian economy, are playing significant role in creating awareness of social distancing as an aid to mitigate the spread of deadly infection, COVID-19. And tomorrow we are doing a program for BHL, which is all about how company working and doing the production facilities have to keep in mind social distancing. It is very important. So this program as Global Compact we do for our member companies, and there are many other programs, but ultimately is all about being sustainable. If you want to be, you have to be responsible, you have to be caring, and you have to be looking after all your stakeholders, including not only your investor, employees, but everyone around you. So this is my few reflection, and I'm sure there will be some useful insight on them. And I'll be happy to take questions when Babita, you give them the opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us an insight of international business scenario, that how sustainability is getting popularity among corporates, and how corporates are now focusing on sustainable business rather than only profitable businesses. And I think this is the right way forward, and this is the way how we can even survive in pandemic and also in the society for future. And it is the only way, I guess, which through which we can go forward. And now I would like to move to Hitendra Mehta, sir. So we would now purely coming to the corporates, that what are their legal formalities, what are their compliances, what they need to do. That is sustainability policies, that is something internal, but about to what about the MCA filing and SEBI guidelines? I think there is a new format for business responsibility reporting as well coming up, and there are other frameworks as well. So what are the compliances things? So please.
In between, I'm sorry to barge in. Before we move on to the stage 2, I would like to thank, in between barging in, I would like to thank Dr. Chatterjee as well as Mr. Kamal Singh for enlightening us. Even as an institution, I feel this is the responsibility of the institution, academic institutions also, towards the society. What we are doing nowadays is doing unorganized social responsibility work, and I would be really grateful if in the coming days and months, if Mr. Kamal Singh and Chatterjee sir, they both show us the path towards an organized social responsibility working in the academic institutions also. I'll talk about it during the question and answer round. So now let's move on to stage 2. Thank you, Babita. Thank you for giving me some time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Hitendra Mehta, sir, we can move to you now.
Thank you so much, Babita ji, and thanks for the kind introduction. I think speaking before such distinguished panelists, particularly Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, who has been actually the architect of CSR policy in India, it's indeed a privilege for me, and I have another privilege of being associated with him when this CSR provisions were actually at the very nascent stage, and when I was working with my mentor, Mr. O.P. Vash, senior advocate, way back in 2009, I suppose, when CSR voluntary guidelines were issued. CSR momentum actually gained, pace when 2009 companies bill was being talked about. So in during that time, if I was to share with you that in the bill that was introduced way back in August 2009, so there was no clause on CSR in that company's bill 2009, and this was referred to a standing committee on finance of Parliament in September 2009, and later this standing committee they recommended a CSR clause in the amended bill, and there was a clause 135 was incorporated in that bill. It was in sometime in 2011. The bill was renamed as Companies Bill 2011, and this discussion continued. And in between, in 2009 December, when India Corporate Week was going on, Ministry of Corporate Affairs they celebrated India Corporate Week, and they came out with CSR voluntary guidelines. So that is the time when the government came up with this. Its intention that the businesses should actually learn to ensure that they have a social responsibility towards the environment, towards the society, which they need to fulfill. They need to actually understand. And initially they said it is voluntary for you to comply, and if you do not comply, then explain in your report. So this was the beginning of the CSR web in 2009. But then, having said that, I often ponder upon whether we need to tell these things in as clear words through a legislation, whether somebody need to tell me that I have to preserve the nature and protect the nature, whether I have to preserve the environment, whether I have to preserve the water resources, or I need to preserve the soil where I live, and do I need to preserve the, the other scared resources which I enjoy? I think the answer are very, very obvious. Sometimes, I mean, I wonder that isn't it the duty of intelligent men to put the obvious first? I mean, to first reinstate the obvious, and that is where the CSR is, coming through a legislation. And because we have seen that there have been exploitation of CSR, exploitation of resources tremendously by corporates, and there is no alternate, be it water resources, be it environment. Like, I mean, unless this COVID-19 thing came, we were actually not really concerned about how to protect our environment. And thankfully, there was lockdown announced by the government, and I'm actually thinking that it's a blessing in disguise for the environment in particular, so that we are actually having a fairly better environment today. I mean, I would like to quote Mahatma Gandhi here, so which says that if you can take care of your immediate surroundings, the universe will take care of itself. So everybody who is working or who is living on this planet, if he can understand what he's supposed to do, I mean, it can start from very basic things of keeping your surroundings clean, or keeping your using your resources in a limited manner. I mean, how much is required exactly that to be used. So, and besides that, we have ancient Indian wisdom, which has been promoting, I mean, charity, philanthropy, and social responsibility. And we have in many religions, like, I mean, if I was to mention that Sikh religion would encourage that one tenth of your income you should actually spend on these kind of activities. I think these are not new things, but then because these are not being followed by all of us, I think that we have a collective responsibility. So therefore, I mean, government.
Sir, your voice is not coming. Can you just check? I think there is some network issue with Hitendra Mehta sir. We'll just connect back in some seconds, I guess. Hitendra Mehta sir, can you hear us? Okay. Okay, tell. I think he's. Okay, till Hitendra Mehta sir joins us back, we can take up some questions which has come to us regarding CSR. The first question is, I would like to know about the compliance need to be followed outside India related to CSR, and whom should we first contact to a broad footprint so that we can spread our knowledge outside India also. I would request Chatterjee sir to to take up this question and let us know that what are the needs following outside India related to CSR, and can we do that?
There are two important things from the perspective of the law that we need to remember here. One is that any CSR activity which is conducted by a company outside the country is not considered as a CSR expenditure by that company under the law. So you cannot say that from my 2% profit, let's say you earn a profit of 2 crores, your net profit. You cannot say that out of this 2 crores, I spent 1 crore in Africa and 1 crore in India. Only that expenditure which you made in India will count towards your CSR expenditure. Point number one. Point number two, if you are a company whose headquarters is outside India, let's say Nestle, but they have branches here, they have a registered office here. So should they be doing CSR? And the law is very clear that if you are a registered company within India, then the profits that you make from India, 2% of that you need to spend for CSR in this country. So these are the two important points that you need to remember.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is one more question which is quite bit related that, and it's a more little problematic as well. That law doesn't define what are the administrative overheads that 5% is allowed. So people exactly don't know what is to be considered as administrative overheads and what is to be considered as other cost factors. So can you just brief us something about that?
Why was it left as administrative overheads? Why were they not specified? Is a question that needs to be answered, because administrative overheads in financial terms is an omnibus term. Now, if you ask, shall I include stationery? Should I include pen, pencil, desk? Like that, you can go on and on answering questions. Yes, pen is included, but stapler is not. Therefore, it is impossible to ask what is an administrative cost and what is not. What the company accepts as an administrative cost, always the chartered accountant allows it. Therefore, there should never be a breakdown of administrative cost.
Okay, sir. Also, sir, can the statutory liability be clubbed with CSR? There were guidelines that it cannot be clubbed, but I think there is still, there are corporates, what they are doing is that environment laws, they are combining it with CSR.
Sorry, it cannot be done. There's a clear red line that it cannot be done.
Sir, is there any regulation or monitoring being done that corporates are not doing it? Is there any monitoring?
Yes, there is an everyday 365, 24/7 monitoring of every single CSR activity taken up by every single eligible company under the MCA portal. And now one more thing I couldn't mention in my initial remarks because time was short. There's something called geotagging. And under the amendments, every single project will now need to be geotagged. Therefore, the moment you start any activity anywhere, the geotagging will alert the CSR portal of the Government of India as to what activity you are doing. So very soon, India will be the only country in the entire world we can answer any question on CSR instantly.
That's very nice. I think that's a great way we are moving towards. So we have one more question for regarding international things. So I would request Kamal Singh sir. Is there any link to international CSR standards? I think it is more related to sustainability. There is no CSR standards as per se, but there are sustainability standards, if I'm not wrong.
Let me just clarify this before Kamal steps in.
Yes, sir.
There is a so-called international standard which is called ISO 26000.
Okay.
This ISO 26000 came out more than almost 9 years ago. But that was more from a Western and European perspective. When the CSR law came into India, we went far ahead of that ISO 26000. And technically and currently today, there is no ISO standard for anything like CSR in India. But further, Kamal Bhai can enlighten us.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there is no CSR ISO 9000 as Dr. Terji mentioned, but there are other benchmarks which are available globally. So for companies who are operating out of a office from, let's say, Germany or France or US, so they do many times apply those parameters and like ESG and all. So there are definitely some benchmarks there, but not ISO 9000 100% as of now.
Thank you, sir. I think we have Hitendra Mehta, sir, back again with us.
Can you hear me now, Babita?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yeah, I was actually writing to you on your WhatsApp. So.
Yes, sir. Yes, I have seen. So, sir, can we just move to about the compliances part again?
Yeah, sure. I was coming on that compliance only because
yes,
I think I missed when I started my compliance related address.
Yes. So your video is off, Hitendra Mehta, sir. Can you just switch on your video as well?
Just a second.
Yeah.
So
yes,
is
sir.
that fine now?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So actually, I was on that compliance part. In India, we have seen that companies are more bothered about compliances. Make the report and get it audited and be happy. I mean, few are. I mean, after the effectiveness of the projects. In fact, it is the need that companies should come out of the feeling that CSR is an obligation and they take it as their duty only. One need to actually realize that CSR is much more than compliance. If you were to ask from me like what compliance is required, I will simply say that only compliance that is required is to spend 2% of your average net profit. So that is the only compliance you should do. Others are, I mean, procedural and more of clerical in nature. So everything can fall in place so long as you are spending this 2% of average net profit. And as rightly mentioned by Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, that about the two amendments which were not notified about like in cases where companies are not able to spend money, whether they can carry forward. So there were two situations. If these were ongoing projects or the money could not be spent and these were carry forward, and how long they can carry forward. So for both the things, there were different proposals introduced in the enactment. In the first case, that within 1 month they need to transfer this amount to a special account, and that money will be credited to that special fund or account. And in the case of ongoing projects, it would be like they can carry it forward for next years by transferring the money in special accounts, and then this has to be utilized in next 3 years. So that was the proposal that was introduced. and if that had come into place, into existence, I think that will change the CSR perception altogether. Because now, even today, the many of the corporates, they are under this impression that if they are not able to spend, they will just give a note in the board report that money could not be spent, and then they can get away with it. So that is, I think, not the perspective that government is actually focusing on. I think before that, because we have learned the benefit of company of learned panelists also. So I also wonder sometimes that do we need to make more adjustments in legal provisions, particularly when we talk of, say, setting up of committee. Suppose a company meets threshold criteria, either of the three threshold criteria, whether it is net worth, turnover, or profit. So they are required to constitute a committee, a CSR committee. So in my view, unless the criteria of net profit is met, I mean, why there should be a need of setting up of a corporate social responsibility committee? Because if company is not making profit, then there will be no question of spending the CSR money also. So I mean, whether company should be obligated to make a CSR committee that is going to be dormant for next couple of years, and after 3 years only they can dislodge that committee. So this is something, I mean, I think that the relevance of the committee will be only when there are profits, right? So this should be considered, I think, by the government. And the second was the cap on administrative overhead. I think that is also unrealistic in my view. So that has to be, I mean, reconsidered. Considering that CSR is now a hardcore professional activity, and this calls for involvement of CSR professionals in the field, and also considering the fact that this entire expenditure incurred on CSR is inadmissible under the Income Tax Act, and setting up of ceiling of 5% on administrative spends is therefore very unrealistic and not called for. So this needs a review. And another aspect which I thought I would be sharing would be that review of Schedule 7, particularly in the context of including the state and the CM funds, like CM Relief Fund also. So far, it only focuses on central government funds like Prime Minister National Relief Fund or National Disaster Funds, and now recently they have included state disaster management funds also, insofar as COVID-19 situation is concerned. But many a times when companies are operating in different states, so they have requests from the state authorities, state government offices to contribute to CM Relief Fund, and they are doing that obligation also. The corporates are doing that also, but unfortunately those spends are not being considered as CSR spend within the meaning of this section 135. And one important aspect is that does the non-compliance with section 135 will lead to a financial penalty? The law only says that non-disclosure of CSR committee, CSR policy in the board report, there is a penalty that is prescribed under 134. But then whether non-compliance of section 135, which is a statutory and a mandatory section, whether this should attract a penalty, and that is coming from the background that company shall spend. I mean, the language of the law says that the board of every company referred to in subsection 1 of section 135, they shall ensure, the word used is shall ensure, that company spends, and the next word is in every financial year. So when it says that company shall ensure, and in every financial year, at least 2% of the average net profit. So this means this is a mandatory thing to follow. And the Companies Act provides that if no penalties are prescribed in the section for non-compliance, then section 450 of the Companies Act shall trigger, and there should be a penalty which is prescribed under section 450 of the Companies Act. And rightly so. I mean, this has been held in some of the judgments passed by the National Company Law Tribunal and National Company Law Appellate Tribunal also. So then one aspect which is again gaining momentum, I mean gaining importance, is that whether there should be audit of CSR expenditure. I think in case the CSR spend is say more than a particular amount, it could be 5 crore, 10 crore, 25 crore. So there should be some sort of check whether the CSR spend is properly and rightly being done by the company. So these aspects I thought I just flagged before I come on the compliance related issues. So coming back on compliances, very simple, one section, and then there are CSR rules in the Companies Act which need to be followed. So the moment you trigger any of these three threshold criteria, this section becomes applicable. Then you need to form a committee which has to have minimum 3 directors. One of the 3 has to be independent director. And this composition of CSR committee you need to disclose in your board report, and also the CSR policy framed by the CSR committee, and which is later subsequently approved by the board. So that you have to disclose on the company website also. The most important part is that selection of the activities, CSR activities, which is done by the CSR committee and following the CSR policy guidelines. And once this selection of activities is done, then you need to do the computation of net profit. That is also a bit complicated exercise, because in some places they have mentioned that this will be computed as per section 198, but then in some other places there are certain more exclusions, particularly in CSR rules they have mentioned. And then ensuring that 2% of the net profit of last 3 years or part thereof you need to spend. So broadly, these are the compliance requirements. And then there is a reporting format prescribed in the annexure to the notification which was issued way back in 2014. So this has to be reported in that particular format, and you need to mention that which particular activities you're spending money on, which area you have chosen, whether it is a local area, because preference should be to the local area. And idea is that since you are exploiting the resources of that particular area, so your first preference should be spending that money in that local area. And and this has to be certified by the auditor as well. I think these are the broad compliance requirements, and I'm actually really happy to see the structure of the event is that it is more focused on question answers. So having given this background, I think we can again come back to the question answers. If there are any questions, we can take up.
Sure, sir. Sure, we'll come back to you. Before that, I would like to come to Chatterjee, sir. There is a question that what are the steps government is taking to take care of the CSR funds manipulating process in India, which is being done by some corporates and professionals. They are manipulating CSR funds, and what are the steps? One is that we know that it is being monitored and notices are being issued. But apart from that, if there is any steps taken?
Government has been a little bit reluctant to be very harsh in this area. And I can understand that. When you fall foul financially, you set up shell companies, you divert money, you go into Hawala racket, those government comes down very hard on corporates. CSR is a far more softer approach, because the idea so far has been to allow corporates to do good. The whole purpose of CSR is to do good to the community. So government has been a bit cautious in coming down very hard or in a very harsh way with the corporates. As I mentioned, some 3,000 odd notices were issued, but most of these were allowed to be compounded. So companies were allowed to pay fines, not very large, and they were then allowed to sort of, make amends for what they had not done. But I now feel that after these 8 years or so, government monitoring is becoming far more tight, far more strong. And my gut feeling is that now corporates don't have a reason anymore or an excuse anymore. So I think the penalties will get harsher. I need to leave at 12:15.
Yes, sir. So this was the last question for you. That's why I've asked first. I would request Madhok sir to please thank Chatterjee sir before he leaves, as he has some other commitments and he need to leave. Madhuk sir, please. So your mic is off, Madhuk sir.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee, sir, you are a signature, you're a name, you're a milestone, whereas the CSR laws and the implementation and the further implications are concerned in our country. And thanking you would be something very unusual. I would rather request you to please keep on being a trailblazer for all of us, as you have always been. And then for many of those who are on Facebook Live and who would be witnessing all these on Facebook today and onwards from today, for them, I would also like to say that please check on with Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee sir's YouTube videos on Gita translations. You can find that with the name Baba Bhaskar, and sir is at his best as always. So for now, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. It is always energetic whenever we speak to you. There is a lot of energy coming from your side as well. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
You take care, sir.
Let's move to the next question. Kamal Singh sir, I would like to take this question from you. So there is a question that in case of foreign companies which are there in India, they are working in India and CSR is applicable on them. How the Indian professionals can approach them or can discuss the possibilities of collaboration with such companies, these foreign companies which have some place of business in India or something?
Yeah, so it is very, very simpler because these companies are also expected to spend 2% of their profit for these social goals. So they do identify the right partner and give the job if it is a company like Unilever or Diageo for that matter. So they will identify their CSR partner implementing agency and they give the work whatever their focus is. If the focus is on water, if the focus is on quality education, skill development, if the focus on gender or on climate change, there are so many, and these global companies, I must also tell you, they are very fully aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. India still has to align. Some companies, I would say nearly 500 companies have aligned their business goals with Sustainable Development Goals, but not everyone. But global company who are from developed economies, they have very well aligned. They have a reporting matrix also, how they are faring on achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. They have to identify the right partner. They have their own due diligence process. And in fact, sometime because of having some tax related issues, so they don't even mind even giving donations. So donations are not attracting any taxes for that purpose.
Thank you so much, sir. Hitendra Mehta, sir, there are changes in this business responsibility reporting framework. Earlier, it was a little simpler, and although it is not has yet been notified, but I think there are some changes in that. So can you just brief us something about that?
Yeah, Bhavita, I think these are developments that are taking place along with the global developments. We have been talking about corporate reporting or business reporting, sustainable reporting. So these are the things I think gradually and eventually the companies, they have to adopt, because unless we talk of sustainable development, so how can one think of having operations for say next foreseeable years, 3-4 years? I mean, the organizations we have seen, some of them, they survive for decades and decades and even hundreds of years. Unless they have those kind of visions, and unless they they understand that sustainability is an important aspect, I mean, whether this has to be taught to them by regulation or they have to understand it by themselves. Now, in the context of listed companies, because public money is involved, so therefore the regulator has to step in, and they have to tell the people that, I mean, what kind of reporting they have to make in order that they remain accountable to the public also. And because the regulators like stock exchanges or the SEBI, so they are actually having onerous responsibility of protecting the investors' money. So they have to align themselves with the latest developments in the world, and they have to keep evolving, like what could be the best way to protect investors' money. So it is in that context. But I think since these are still not mandated so by law, so they are actually trying to first educate the corporate, and then introducing these through their regulations basically.
So basically, like earlier it was voluntary guidelines, and now MCA has come up with the guidelines on responsible business conduct, which are again involuntary in nature. And now they are aligning it with SDGs. And also, I think the BRR framework is also getting aligned with SDGs, so that ultimately that is the ultimate goal of the India and the corporates as well, to attain the sustainability.
Correct. There's been lots of discussion on global reporting initiatives,
Yes, sir. I was coming to that only. Yes, sir.
And when we say that these CSR provisions are applicable to foreign companies also, I mean, if they are having presence in India, whether it is a branch office, project office, or a subsidiary of a foreign company, so it is applicable to them. So if these multinational companies, they are coming and setting up businesses in India, invariably they are bringing the best corporate practices also, I mean, in their respective organizations. And once we see that there are some benchmarks available, so then we try to follow them. And on this, I think I can share I mean, because of my association with the Institute of Company Secretaries, and I currently chair the editorial advisory board of the institute as well, and we keep coming up with special issues on this. And on CSR also, we came up with a special issue last year, and there we discussed in detail about sustainable development goals and global reporting initiatives also. And we had a good number of quality articles from very eminent authors in that.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, there is one more question that it's more like a comment that nowadays CSR funds are not being used for social responsibilities, but sharing central government's responsibilities. So how would you comment on that?
On this, I think one can simply say that the strength of the law lies in its implementation. I mean, any law will be as strong as its implementation is. So if implementation is weak for some reason, I mean, I sometimes wonder that government keep collecting, cess on many accounts. For example, we pay petrol cess, education cess, and there are some reports that now there are accumulated funds of say 30,000 crore, 40,000 crore rupees, and these are not being spent. Then this is not right way actually to impose duties and to stress upon collection of cess. It doesn't make a good case. So same applies with CSR. If suppose I am contributing to a particular fund which is designated by the government, and that fund is not spending that money on that designated activity or for which it has been set up. It could be PM Care Fund, PM Relief Fund, or Swachh Bharat Kosh for that matter. So unless these monies are spent, because the extensive focus of the law is on spending, it is not that making provision in the balance sheet, in the books. So focus of the law is that the companies spend 2% of their average net profit, and this is the minimum. And what is heartening to note is that some companies, they're not bothered about 2%. They're spending more than that also. I mean, they're not confined to that 2% threshold. And this applies to public sector undertakings in particular, where they follow the DPE guidelines. So sometime, I mean, because they have to align the two regulations, because DP Department of Public Sector Enterprise guidelines on CSR are there, which are applicable on them, as well as they have to follow the section 135. So for example, their requirement is to spend 2% of their last year's profit. So if it is a higher amount, so then they will be spending a higher amount. So I mean, these kind of instances are also there. But then again, I will say that the focus is on spending. And
Yes, sir. And I believe when corporates are taking some responsibilities, then obviously they can always help the central government, because we know the taxpayers are less in numbers, rather than the people who are need to be served in India are higher in numbers. So that's all the questions we had till for today.
I'd like to add one thing here. It
Yes,
is
sir.
in this context that government need to actually augment its infrastructure, for ensuring that spend take place, and there the need of CSR professionals will come into play. So I mean, we need to have more CSR professionals or experts who can actually help the government also and help the companies also. I mean, to advise how to best spend their money on CSR. So that
And
is
so
the
I think we have so many, we are coming up with the CSR professionals as well. I think there is a requirement to place them suitably so that they can actually guide us.
yeah, and that is there not only from the perspective of simply telling them that how to spend money. There are implication of many laws also involved in it, starting from your Companies Act, Societies Registration Act, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, Income Tax
Yes.
Act, for that matter. I mean, there could be different guidelines uh, of many other sectors also, which they need to look into.
And also, no, apart from laws, there is a requirement for project proposal drafting and then implementation, then the geotagging, which Chatterjee sir also mentioned that it is getting in importance these days. So the geotagging and everything. So basically, the complete hand-holding is required in these matters.
Absolutely. So there you need professionals from different expertise areas.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Kamal Singh, sir, we would like to have final comments from your side.
Thank you. So I would like to say that it is a very great opportunity for all of us to contribute towards society as a whole. It is the Sustainable Development Goals are not to be only achieved by United Nations. They have every person has to contribute, and they have to contribute with their full appreciation and realization that they
Sir,
need to.
your video is off, Kamal Singh, sir.
Yeah. So I was saying that no, the SDGs are our framework for making this planet more happier and sustainable. So each one of us has to contribute. So SDG agenda is not only of the United Nations; it is for everyone in your own way, right? Starting from our home to offices to organizations that we work for, and plus the society as a whole. We need to contribute toward this, and it is this that will make us more stronger, bigger, better, and sustainable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Hitendra Mehta, sir, final comments from your side, please.
I think the time has come that everybody has to recognize that this is something that we have to live with. These requirements to have separate CSR committee, CSR policy, which sets up the CSR vision and mission, then CSR provisions and rules framed under the law. They have only ensured that the corporate follow an efficient and transparent and consistent approach in discharging their social obligations. But then, beside this and over and above this, this has to come from the DNA of the corporate. I mean, if we talk of individuals, whenever we talk, I mean, we see a poor person on the road, we feel like helping that person, or we see some trash so in our surroundings, we tend to clear that trash. This is a social obligation that we carry. So similarly, if corporates, they are operating in particular areas, particularly the one which are polluting the environment, emitting, polluting contents in the environment, or otherwise they are using, say, scared water resources, for example, unless they pay back, what we will pay back to the generations? I mean, what kind of, legacy we will be leaving? So if that is not done now, so then, I mean, we don't see a longer world. The word, the generations which will be there, they'll be having very, very scarce resources unless this is recognized now, and this is so important. So I think CSR has to come from the DNA of not only corporate, and it is in that context that when ministry set up a high-level committee on CSR way back in December 18, so they have now come up with suggestion that CSR should be applicable on limited liability partnerships also. So that recommendation has already been made. So what ministry can do, it can only regulate the entities which are governed by it. So like companies and LLPs, for example, or societies for that matter. So they can make it mandatory for them. But then for others, so I think we should not wait for regulations. So this is, nothing, taking from your top line. It is only taking a small 2% portion out of your profits earned. It is, if you're a loss-making company, we're not asking you to pay. Government is not asking you to spend any money. You are earning profits, and that is also more than 5 crore rupees. Then only government is saying that 2% of that.
So your voice is not coming. True, sir, that the CSR and sustainability go hand in hand, and we don't need to wait for regulations or any kind of guidelines. And this is some kind of activities which needs to be accepted. Like Kamal Singh sir has mentioned that international UN agencies and everyone, they are adopting it, and they are making their policies according to that only. And I think that's the way forward, how we should be going ahead in India as well. So thank you so much for joining us. I would request Madhok sir to please give a vote of thanks to our speakers and to our participants.
Well, today is the day where I would not say this is a vote of thanks, but this is a vote for my gratitude on behalf of the 24 by 7 team. We all as a team, we offer our gratitude to the bouquet of intellectuals who are here, each a hallmark, a signature, a stamp in his own field of expertise. Dr. Bhaskar Chatterjee sir, Kamal Singh sir, and Hitendra Mehta sir. In order to put this up in a layman's uh, understanding, I would rather say that we, as a human nature, we all have this inbuilt to do some or the other kind of social responsibility dispersals. We say that if God has made us of a caliber that we can deliver to those who are less fortunate, then we should come forward by our own selves and do the good work. The intellectual property that has been gathered today by our team of 24 by 7 nyay.com, I promise you all that this will be further boosted, and we will see to it that each word recorded today reaches to the students, to the companies, to all those who are concerned. When I say concerned, I mean the citizens of this country. They should know about the ins and outs of the goodness of giving out. With these words, I say bye for now. Not a thank you to the intellectuals, to the masters who are here, and thank you again. For now, we are signing out, and very soon in our next webinar, we shall take up with another responsible caption. We shall take up with one more responsibility and stand truly by the essence of 24 by 7 Nyay.com we stand for. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.